Hi, good day to everyone. My name is Shimri Winters, and today we will talk about Chicago Booth application walkthrough. If you don't know much about Chicago Booth, check out our other video that talks about Chicago and about the essays and the recommendations and the interview. But this is just a very short presentation that will cover Chicago basics, and then we'll actually go to the online application of Chicago and just make sure that you know how to fill it out. This is my only marketing slide, a bit about ARINGO. We're very good. We're a boutique MBA admissions consulting firm. We help regular candidates get into top MBA programs. Check us out on aringo.com. What do we do? We help with everything from a chances assessment, project planning, kind of where to apply to, when, and then to help you with the actual application from strategy to all the way to scholarships and everything in the middle. So check us out on aringo.com. That was my marketing slide. So today we're just going to talk a bit about Chicago, just so we all know more about Chicago. And then hopefully you're at the stage where you're filling out your online application, and we'll just go through that to make sure that you know how to answer, all the different areas there. So Chicago is one of the best business schools in the world. I'm not going to go into every single factor here. You can pause the YouTube presentation. But definitely one of the most well-respected business schools in the world, M7, top 5, top 10, whatever ranking you're looking at. It's going to be one of the best schools in the world. Um, a lot of people know it for the economics department and Friedman, etc. But there's so many famous professors, alumni, um, and generally, events that are correlated to Chicago Booth. So one of the best schools in the world. The MBA is a STEM MBA. Um, like most MBAs, it's 2 years, 21 months with an internship in the middle. You can see here the tuition rates, the class size, very similar to other M7 programs in the US. Um, Same goes with international programs, etc. GMAT average is around 675, 685 in the GMAT Focus Edition. Here it says 730 in the old GMAT range. Um, GRE scores, can't remember exactly the average, around 326, something like that. Obviously, always aim to be above average if you can. Um, and that's it. Again, one of the best schools. The curriculum is very flexible. There's a lot of electives, I think over 100 electives that you can choose from. There's a lot of play it forward culture. I've heard this a lot, both from students and alumni. They really try to kind of team Chicago and then team Booth, really try to work together um, and support one another. And I think you might feel this when you speak to students and alumni. Everybody kind of wants to help. Um, the learning methodology, it's case based and case study method. But there's a lot of flexibility in the curriculum. They definitely believe in hands-on. There's some field trips if you want to take them with some of the clubs. There's a lot of work with the industry. A lot of the professors are involved with the industry. It's not just theoretical teaching for them. So definitely a fantastic school. Um, Student life. One of the best things about Chicago is the student life. Lots and lots and lots of student clubs. And again, just check them out, whatever interests you. And the alumni numbers are huge. Again, this isn't like a whole presentation about Chicago, but Chicago also has two other campuses, one in Asia and one in the UK, and mainly for executive education. But this also kind of shows what a global business school this is. Okay, the last thing I just wanted to mention was the Chicago post MBA life. So first of all, the career services is huge. There's tens of people that their job is to find a Chicago student a job at the end of the MBA. Um, and lots of recruiters come. I'll show you a slide about that. But there's lots and lots of help with finding a job, active help, from interview prep to job fairs. to referrals, to career tracks, anything you need, they're going to help you. So it's a huge resource for Chicago Booth. I think I put here some stats. Again, you can pause and look at whatever you want. What I found interesting, I think, was actually kind of the people that didn't go and look for a job. I was just interested to see kind of what they were doing. So, okay, 10% were sponsored, so they weren't looking for a job. But then I always like looking at starting your own business. It's around 4% of Chicago students that straight out of the MBA, with the student loan fees the fees that they're still paying, open a business. I think that's quite good, 4%. I mean, I know it's only a few people. I like that. Obviously, the employment rates are huge, and to be honest, if you finish your MBA from Chicago Booth, you'll probably find a full-time employment if you're seeking one. In terms of the employers, we're talking about well, you can go to the previous slide and see that, but we're talking about the 4 pillars that I would see in most top business schools, which is consulting, technology, finance, and all the rest. Okay, let's call it industry. I think you can see here consulting was around a third in terms of both in industry and in the function. Then finance or investment banking, it's really, finance is a bit bigger than just investment banking. Is usually around 15% here if you put things together, maybe a bit more. And actually it's higher in terms of the industry that you're in, because a lot of people go to financial services or investment banking or private equity. So it might actually be a bit over 20%. And like we said, tech is big, and all the rest, the industry is always very big because it's all the rest. Okay, that was my kind of very short brief. Again, check these are some employers. I was surprised to see BCG as the top employer, and McKinsey only as the second one, but great. But you can see the top employers are the consulting firms, and then there's the finance and the tech firms. And then suddenly with the 5-6 recruits, there's starting to be some very interesting firms, TikTok, or Walmart, okay. They're just looking for managers, and they might be recruiting for like a management rotation program or something else. Again, this was just a very short brief about Chicago. Check us out. Oh, Jennifer's email, that's great. But check us out on aringo.com for questions, etc. And the purpose of this presentation was actually to go through the actual online application for Chicago. So here, very elegantly, I switched to the Chicago Booth website. And here is the application website. So I've started an online application, and we will go through everything. In this case, I started a full-time MBA program application. You really want to make sure that you're applying to the right program. I know that sounds strange, but Chicago have, here it says full-time, yes. Chicago have various MBAs. They have the executive MBA, they have part-time MBA, they have, okay, they might add other MBAs, accelerated MBA, weekend MBA, executive program. So I know it sounds strange, but I've seen it all. And I've seen people apply to the wrong program. So first thing is just make sure you're applying to the right program. Okay. Now that we've got that. Okay, so there's a little brief here at the beginning from the dean, very nice, read it. And then Chicago is actually quite a long online application. It's quite straightforward. I don't think there's going to be any surprises here. We'll look at everything together, but it's quite long. So what do people usually do? They usually prepare everything, okay, the CV and the essays, and even some of the little things that are hiding here, you can kind of copy them to a Word document and then prepare everything offline, and then prepare 2 or 3 or 4 hours. It takes a long time to actually fill in this entire online application, but you'll have the essays and your CV and your transcripts and even the little prompt answers. You'll have everything here ready just to copy and paste. So that's kind of what we're going to do. I'm not going to go into what to answer. I'm just going to go into where to answer what kind of thing. Hope that makes sense. Okay, so first thing is pretty straightforward. Like most of this application, it has some dates, and you want to make sure that you're applying to the right MBA. I think Chicago kind of bumps you to the right round. I think Chicago kind of bumps you to the next round. So if now is August, it will appear round one. But if I don't press submit and I re-enter this in October or November, it will appear round two. And same thing, I'm actually recording this video in January. I opened that online application today and suddenly it says round three. So that's nice. It kind of does it automatically to the next round. You have here some dates. Don't miss them, because if you miss them, like we said, you'll be thrown to the next round. They're asking me if I want to apply to a dual degree. And Chicago have been adding more and more dual degree options, as you can see here. Of course, read them before you apply and know what you're applying to, and get your application accordingly. In this specific case, we're just going to focus on the regular full-time MBA. Pretty straightforward question. Are we going, do we have an undergraduate degree from Chicago? No, we don't. Okay, maybe you do. So next is kind of personal, although they call this biographical information. It's just kind of information about yourself. Okay, I don't think I need to go into your address and your name and your email address and your mobile phone number. I think, again, this part, you'll manage by yourself, but you just fill in here everything. Some people ask me about citizenship, so that I did want to kind of stop here. This isn't vital. Okay, so people ask me more in terms of scholarships. If I have a dual citizenship, let's say I'm German and American, should I put my primary citizenship as American, or should I put my primary citizenship as German? So to be honest, what I usually suggest is just be kind of honest and correlate it to your application. So if your last 35 years have been in Germany, but you happen to be born in the US, I would think your primary citizenship is a German citizenship, and vice versa. Okay, so I mean, if you've been living in the US and this is where your citizenship is, so definitely sign that up, mark that, because if I put British India, whatever, and as my first citizenship, but I don't have any history with this country, I might have the passport from my grandfather. This might look a bit suspicious. So I would kind of not think right now about scholarship strategy, etc. Maybe I can be more diverse, etc. I would just be kind of honest here with the citizenships. Consent, yes, I think we consent to whatever they're asking. You know, our aim is to be in Chicago, and yes, they're gonna have to use our responses. So we definitely consent. And this is kind of important, do we consent to store and maintain our data? Yes, we consent. And again, don't try and be over sophisticated here. Yes, I would definitely kind of do all that and press continue. And we can now continue with some more difficult areas that we want to fill out in this application. So personal history, again, this is just a bit of history and about yourself. Okay, I think you'll manage with which gender you are and are you a first generation. Now, here's the first open question that we can think if we want to answer. Now, because Chicago Booth application is quite long, the essays are one of the, they're long. They don't have we're in 2026 right now. They don't have a word count limit, which is very different than other schools. I wouldn't use this online application for a kind of additional essay area. I wouldn't start giving more and more and more information. I would just trust that, the best stories I've given are in the application itself, and the essays. Hopefully our recommenders also showed some kind of other angle and in your CV. But still, if there's something crazy or very, very important that you want to know about your upbringing, a personal tragedy, like a very big tragedy, which caused you to live with your grandparents. Maybe you were brought up in a boarding school in a different country. Maybe you moved countries a lot. So that could show some kind of internationalism that you want to kind of point out that you didn't show from some kind of reason, which is weird, in your essays. So if there's something kind of really, really different about yourself, yes, you can use this section. Is there anything different? And you can kind of say it briefly. Yes, not yes, I would say that. I was raised by my blah, 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 grandparents and moved 15 countries before I was 10. Okay, no, before I was 111. Okay, so again, only if this is very interesting. If this not, just leave it empty. That's absolutely fine. Okay, here there's a section about family. I love it. I love that Chicago Booth are actually interested in our family. Okay, um, so this is a bit different than other places. But yes, here you can, here's about my mother and what does she do? Is she a Chicago Booth alumnus? Very important if she is, because then you're a legacy, but if she isn't. So she's not affiliated in any way, and she's not deceased. And here's my mother. Okay. So, there wasn't a lot of interesting stuff about her, but I kind of added whatever I could. If they are alumni, if you know, if your grandparents, mother, cousin is a alumnus of Chicago Booth, that's super important. So you see, you can put here different people if they are related to Chicago Booth, and then you'll want to know whatever you can. What did I put? If they're alumnus, yes, and then you have to put their information. Okay, I think that's easy. If you have a spouse, definitely mention that. If you have children, definitely mention that. Again, I think we can continue. Okay. As you can see, so far, it's kind of straightforward. There haven't been many open boxes where we need to fill out stuff. This is Booth and you. So I think this is super interesting that Chicago kind of says they have concentration and they want to know what you want to pursue. A lot of people again ask me, okay, what's the strategy here? What should I do to raise my chances? So it's a very easy answer. Just be true to yourself and correlate it to your application. So if your application talks about entrepreneurship and in the restaurant business, okay, you were a waiter and now you're a head of a shift and you want to go and do an MBA to open a chain of Mexican restaurants in Russia. Okay, that's interesting. So I would definitely like to hear more about that. But then if you come and you kind of say, and my concentration that I'm interested in is applied AI. Okay, well, that fits more of a tech entrepreneur and less of a restaurant, global business restaurant kind of person. So in that kind of case, I would probably look at general management, okay, because you want to open a chain of restaurants in Russia, and maybe international business. You can only tick here too. So just think what correlates with your story and what correlates with with your application. Now, general management's a safe one, okay? You're going for consulting, put general management. You're staying in the same industry that you are today, whatever that is, energy, finance, pharmaceutical, but you want to kind of go up and raise yourself, raise the level in the organization. That's kind of general management. No one said you have to tick here too, but you can definitely tick here whatever is relevant for you. Okay. This is very cheeky from Chicago, and they ask some questions which are kind of, don't be spontaneous. Like I said, kind of copy them to a Word document and work on them in the side, offline, I like to say, and then just copy and paste what you prepared. So again, what's your immediate post-MBA goal? What is your long-term career goal? Is super, super important to be correlated with what I wrote in the essay. I've just written you 500 words about this. So just make sure that you're answering this and that it's exactly the same like in the application and it's the same kind of theme. As you can see, there's 250 characters. That's 30 words max. So my post MBA role would be, what do we want to be? A consultant in the do we want to be finance practice of an MBB firm, or even such, or well, I've already said MBB, but let's say practice of a firm, yes, such as McKinsey. Okay, so I want to, sorry, the best way to answer this, and this is kind of, you can see in our videos about how to answer essays, is actually to mention a specific job. I want to be a consultant in a very specific, area, so my function is a consultant. I want to do this in which industry, in the finance industry or the finance practice of a consulting firm. Okay, so and I've actually mentioned the firm McKinsey. Okay, so again, I just want to be very specific here. So I'm just going to give another example. Okay, so my post MBA goal, okay, what do we want to be? Is to be a product manager, okay, at a big IT firm, okay, such as you choose, okay. In there, again, very specific, I don't know, artificial intelligence, whatever department. Now, do your research, yes? Is there an artificial, oh great, I know how to spell department, but is there an artificial intelligence department at Google? Okay, so be specific. Does the artificial intelligence department at Google recruit MBAs? Okay, that's a very good question. So you need to have this information beforehand. So we know your goals are realistic. They're correlated to what we said in the application. They're correlated to your profile, and they're realistic to business school. So my post MBA goal is to be an astronaut at NASA. Maybe I shouldn't go to Chicago Booth, or my post MBA goal is to take a trip, a caravan trip to South America for 5 years and be a tattoo artist. I mean, that's great, but maybe Chicago Booth isn't the right place for me. So obviously, be correlated to your application and maybe a bit to recruiters that come and recruit from the school. Remember, I showed you before, like the top recruiters. This doesn't mean that everybody has to write BCG on the application. Definitely be honest with yourself, but make sure that your recruiter or some kind of similar recruiter comes to recruit MBAs. That was very long about the short-term goal. The long-term goal is the same, but my thing is, again, be specific. In the long term, I am planning, what do we want to do? To open a chain, blah, 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 of restaurants. So what you want to do in, where was I going? Russia, blah, 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 that will serve Mexican food, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so industry, geography, what you're going to do, why you're going to do it. Again, as you can see, I haven't even used the entire 250 characters. I only wrote here 10 words. That's fine as well. No one said I have to maximize them. Okay, I think we can move. Here, they just, so when you do these kind of drop-down boxes, think more about like school statistics. Okay, they kind of want to do a statistic. How many of their applicants come from a finance industry and want to move to a finance industry? So that's why they're asking. So I intend to work in consulting, and I'm going to be an engineer in consulting, whatever. Okay. Have you ever applied to Chicago? Yes, no. And this is if you're a Dogen scholar, no. Do I want to hear, have I heard and been in Chicago Booth events? So if yes, kind of mention the event. Obviously don't lie, don't, just mention if you've been to events. We recommend you to go to events. And, how did you hear about Chicago Booth? Well, many people just say, I've done research. Or I've spoken to Shimri from ARINGO MBA Admissions Consulting, and he said, let's go for Chicago. Okay, so we're kind of midway, and again, a lot of those were some open kind of questions, and here there's a few more. So I just want to make sure we're kind of aligned, and this section usually takes our candidates the most time. Okay, so let's just go through everything slowly. Okay, so the instructions, they don't want to know who you are, etc. Here we need to put all the full-time employers that you've had. Um, so the most interesting thing here is when people ask me what to put down, and I say, well, just look at your resume. Okay, I mean, it's all there. Or just think where you've worked. So don't overthink this. Again, no strategy for scholarship or for acceptance, just be correlated to your application. Because when I used to interview for London Business School, the one thing I didn't like was discrepancies. Okay, when I asked someone and something just didn't work out, oh yeah, I love London, but I prefer Harvard, or something like that slips in the middle, or oh yeah, I worked there full time while I was studying, supporting my family, and preparing for a marathon. Okay, someone once told me that, and I said, so how many hours a week did you run? He said like 50 hours a week. And I was like, and how many how many university hours did you do? He said, oh yeah, 50 hours a week. And I was like, so you worked full time? He said, oh yeah, 200 hours a week. And I was like, okay, something here isn't adding up. So just make sure to kind of again, just be very honest. So here I work today for, who am I working for? Pizza Hut, and well, actually, let's be a bit more. Okay, so I work for ARINGO MBA Admissions Consulting, and I am head of the strategy team. Okay, and again, make sure this is the title that's in your CV, etc. And here I work um, in New York and in the state and whatever. And I can't see here any, something super interesting. Let's see if I can actually save it. No, because I need all the other information. And okay, good. I wanted to scroll down, so that's good. So telephone, start date, end date. Salary. Um, you know, it's a bit blunt. Why are they asking for a salary? Okay. But they're asking. Again, no strategy here, just be honest. I think Chicago Booth know by now that salaries in India are lower than salaries in Wall Street. Okay, so if you have a very low salary, nothing to be ashamed of. If you have a very high salary, that's fine as well. Um, Now, here there's something hiding, 700 characters, again, 100 words, about your job description. People ask me, okay, but I've already given them the resume. What do they want from me? Well, I don't know. It's a good question, but they'll definitely read this as well. Should you copy and paste your resume? No, because in the resume, hopefully, you've written some kind of achievement bullets. Okay, so you've written, you're a consultant at McKinsey, and you've written, okay, maybe not single-handedly, but part of a team that was in charge of a merger of two companies worth $10 billion, right? So and maybe promoted ahead of schedule. Yay. So lots of achievements, but that's not your job description. So your job description is as a consultant, okay, um, I work with, sorry, as a consultant where, right? So let's change the industry in the defense industry at McKinsey. Okay, I work with, I don't know, who do you work with? Armies? Sorry, I'm not really a defense consultant. I know nothing about this. And gov organizations, organizations. What are we working with them on? On various um, strategic, okay, and blah, blah, blah. Okay, so explain what you do. If you have here strategic, what I was thinking, that's not how you write strategic, never mind. But what I was thinking also is you can also write blah, 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 and then you can write, I daily interact or interact daily with, okay, like who are we interacting with? And I think we can, I don't know, partners and clients, etc. So I think that's also interesting that we can do. I have some kind of spell check here. I'll just close that. So I think that will be easier. So we don't have to get that all the time. And Reasons of leaving again. So you're going to state here your last three jobs, reasons of leaving, etc. I think that's it here. What I wanted to mention is they do ask for full-time jobs post your undergraduate. Okay, so if you went to college at 18, graduated at 21 or 22, and then you um, worked for 2 years at Deloitte, 3 years at McKinsey, that would be your jobs, right? That's very easy. But we've also seen other candidates who, for example, at 18 went to the military for a few years. Okay, so it's before their undergraduate degree, but it's definitely full time if you went to 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 years to the military before your undergraduate degree. So although it says here kind of a month of full-time professional, and a lot of other schools it might say post undergraduate. Definitely, here I like Chicago who actually said military experience. Definitely count that even if it was before the degree. Now, if you have a specific case where you worked also before the degree, before your undergraduate degree, somewhere, great. This is a very specific question. Ask me. But yes, if you worked in Wall Street 5 years before your degree and just completed your degree now, obviously I would try and count that as well. So be a bit flexible here in what you're counting. With jobs that are during the degree, I would be a bit careful. I would probably not mention many roles that were part-time roles through the degree. Okay, here are just some checked boxes with years and things like that. Great, I think you can do all that by yourself. Months of full-time professional military experience. Great. Do you have any, full-time and military. Do you have any gaps? Super interesting question and tough one. If you have a gap, I've kind of filled this out before. So after several years as a tactical officer and, being in the Israeli Navy, whatever, I, decided to take a gap year and go for, I don't know, 6 month track in Namibia. Okay, so definitely if you have some kind of gap, which is on the CV, I would fill that out. Are you a sponsored employee? So this can affect your sponsored candidate. This can affect your scholarships if you are a sponsored candidate. On the other hand, it might affect your chances of acceptance because Chicago might say, hey, this guy, his workplace have chosen him, and we know this is a super selective workplace, Deloitte, and they're going to pay for some of his MBA. So I would think that's good. But again, you can't lie. So it's good, it's bad. If you have any government sponsorship stuff, definitely mention that here. Mention what percent you might be getting from your employer. Okay, so those were kind of things that were hiding here. And last thing is the professional award. So a lot of people do not have professional awards. Don't be worried, and don't say, "Oh, when I was 6, I got a certificate for finishing my 25-meter first swim. Can I put it here?" So no, don't put that here. If you have professional awards, definitely put them here. I've had lawyers that have professional certificates. I've had and you kind of mention that here your certifications, right? And then you can mention here a few. By the way, if you're a CPA and I don't know, MD together, that would be great. Also an accountant and also a doctor. I love those. You can definitely mention those here. There's no place at Chicago to upload those certificates. In other schools, you actually have to upload them. And again, if you got awards, definitely mention best. What do we want to be? Best I love consultant of the year award. Emmy, obviously, not Emmy. I'm going to actually get the Oscar award for best actor. Very important. 2026. Sorry, DiCaprio, but Shimri Winters got the award this year, etc., etc. Okay, let's continue. And I'm just trying to remove this spell check, word count. Good. Don't need all that all the time. Good. Okay. And now we're getting to the part of the application where it's the things that you've hopefully prepared. So in this case, it's quite straightforward. You just add your recommender, and Chicago Booth asks for two recommenders. You have to not give a lot of information on the recommender, but basically his name, his organization, and the relationship. Is he your colleague or your client? Um, Obviously, the best recommenders are a current supervisor, and the second best would be a former supervisor. These are professional recommendations, and Chicago Booth prefer them versus an academic recommendation, but obviously choose whatever you can. Just some people asking me about something very logistic. I waive my right to access this report. I think it's fine to waive that right. This is some kind of a fine print, which basically says if my recommender writes a recommendation about me, I don't have the right to access it. I think that's fine and fair. And you know, we're not supposed to know what people are writing about us. So and fine, and you have to type your name and you have to confirm that you haven't written the recommendation for them and that you're not cheating and lying. Okay, why did you choose these recommenders? Again, this is an open text box, but this one should be very short. I chose my current boss and my previous boss. Ah, boss. Okay, good for it. So quite straightforward. And of course, you can elaborate a bit more. I chose Joseph because he knows me best and recruited me and worked with me for 2 years. I didn't choose my current boss because he only knows me for 1 month. I chose my previous. Okay, like you can obviously explain whatever you need. Okay, next is the academics. Not your MBA, but your previous academics. And here we have to add the institution. Okay, kind of straightforward, I think. In this institution name, okay, so I went to London Business School in the United Kingdom, and I need to, tell them when I went to London Business School and to upload a transcript. This transcript can be whatever you have, obviously in English. It can be a multiple page PDF. And I've had people that did some kind of transit, said, they studied somewhere for 2 years and maybe transferred to somewhere else or did an exchange or studied 2 degrees, but they're part of one, some kind of complicated story, no problem. Put it in a merged PDF, look online. I'm sure you'll find a merged PDF tool and you can put, whatever transcripts in one place and that's fine. What I do here usually is I tell candidates in this specific case to add both your undergraduate GPA transcript, okay, so the course by course page, okay, so biology 98, strategic analysis 95 or 4.0 or whatever grade scale you got. Just put all the grades and that kind of page. And the second thing is to put your kind of certificate. So, Shimri Winters was awarded a BA in computer science from London School of Economics. Okay, like be very specific. Put that document even first. So your undergraduate document, and then the transcripts with the kind of course by course details. Awards and honors. If you got any awards, I hope you did. Please mention them here. So obviously cum laude for years 2020, 2021, and Dean's List 2022, and best Shimri. No, I don't know what else. Okay. Well, again, if you are a U.S. federal Pell Grant, that's something very specific, which I don't think as most of you. Okay, if you qualify for some kind of government assistance, again, you should probably know about this if you are. If you were kind of in the special forces or some kind of you were awarded some kind of educational grant, you probably should know this and just mention it. Again, this is good and there's no way to cheat here. So if it's part of your who you are, definitely add this. If not, just move on. Did you obtain any degree from Chicago? Very important for them to know if you have any correlation to the school. If yes, you're going to have to um, mention what. Um, and you know, did you? This is something that people ask me. If you have any failing grades, or were you dismissed from school or something like that? So if you do say yes, you have to explain, which is good. So what you can say, let's say you failed one grade, not a big deal. I think some people fail one grade, so you can say yes. In my junior year, while I was working full time and taking care of my dying mother. Well, it doesn't have to be that dramatic. I didn't I failed statistics. Okay, I mean I think it's fine. Okay, to just say you did one course out of 50 or out of 100 academic points, 1 point that you failed, you took it again and you got a 3.5. Okay, so you did take it again. Um, Again, here it's kind of a difficult situations if you attended more than one institution, etc. Just need to explain. It's all fine. Just need to explain stuff. Okay, here we get to the English proficiency, and if you needed to take um, an English test. Okay, Chicago Booth accept lots of tests. So they accept the TOEFL, which I think is kind of standard, but also the IELTS and the Pearson test as well, PTE. And recently they've been accepting the Duolingo test. I just want to just pay attention if you need to take this test. So if English wasn't your native language and you didn't study your undergraduate degree in English, and again, you can just read here the criterias, then you will need this test as a prerequisite and pay attention to their minimum score. Chicago have a higher minimum score for their English proficiency test than other universities. So, for example, in the TOEFL, a lot of universities will require 100 as a minimum test, as a minimum score, but Chicago will require 104. Same with the Duolingo, if I remember correctly, it's 135 minimum. I hope I remember that correctly. And a lot of other universities will say 120 or 130. So just check out that you have the minimum score. And again, it's a shame that you've prepared your GMAT and prepared your entire application, etc., but kind of didn't read what the minimum score is. By the way, you can take these English proficiency tests at home. And that's it. If you have an exemption, okay, so just mention it. Okay, if you live in the US, if you work in the US, if you studied in England, okay, if you studied in the listed countries, and your degree was entirely in English, definitely that works. Okay. If your degree wasn't 100% in English, you're gonna need the English proficiency test. Don't like try and be clever and oh no, but as a child I lived no. If your degree wasn't in English, you're gonna have to take the test, even if okay, it really depends, but even if you used to live in the US a long time ago. Okay, test scores, like we know, this is a mandatory part, and we do need to add your test score, okay, and you have to say, was it a GMAT or GRE, and when you took it and what your score was. How many times, this is just for school statistics. A lot of people ask me, oh, I don't want to tell them that I took the GMAT 4 times. Why not? So let's think if you're an interviewer or you're a Chicago Booth screener of applications, and you can see one candidate who got a 700 in the GMAT. I mean, I think that's a great score. Well done. Focus edition, that's a very good score, 705. Well done. And they'll get whatever, 10 out of 10 for a good GMAT score, or 8 out of 10. And then you see another candidate who took the GMAT 4 times. And let's just give a scenario. The first score was 645. The second score was 685. The third score was 705. And the fourth score was 500. So what? This is a candidate who doesn't quit. He tries more and more. And even after he got the 705, he tried again and failed, but he didn't quit. I think that's great. I'll give him a 10 out of 10 or 8 out of 10 or whatever. So what I'm trying to say here, it's exactly the same. Don't worry how many times you took the GMAT. This is just purely for school statistics. There's no strategic thinking here. Okay, activities. This is where we want to kind of show what you're doing, who you are, etc. So we want to describe your current and past activities, and this can be anything. Okay, this can be Red Cross. Okay, and my role was a volunteer. And what did I used to do in the Red Cross? I don't know, but I used to go on ambulances and help in distressed old people, okay, or whatever. So I think the school here, and this is what they're looking for in the application. Here it's a bit more for the statistic, are looking kind of for interesting people. And when I used to interview for my MBA program at London Business School, I used to look for kind of three things. I used to see, are you academic? Are you professional? But is there something else? Are you interesting? Now, not everybody volunteers. I get that. It's fine. But try and write something. Maybe you play the guitar, maybe you play chess, maybe you visit an old person, a senior citizen. Maybe you, I don't know, donate food. I would definitely try and kind of add something here. Again, has to be correlated to your entire application. Okay, so finally, we came to the essays, and like I said, definitely 1,000,000%. Don't type them here live on your application. Pause here, take this question, go work on it, and then come back. And it's actually two big essays this year, and very different than other schools. There's no minimum. There's no maximum for the word count. There's a minimum word count and minimum word count for the essay number two. Check out our videos about how to work on MBA applications, and that will help you how to work on the essays. Just regarding the word count, there's no right answer here. Minimum 250, let's say maximum 1,000. You decide if it's 500 or 600 or 400 or 300. Definitely don't go on and on too much. Okay, we're nearly there. Ooh, something happened. Do I want to leave the site? No, I do not want to leave the site. So we'll deal with that. And so let's try and continue. Will it give me that again? No. Okay, that was lucky. We're still on Chicago. Okay, do we have any additional information? So definitely do not use this section as an optional essay for Chicago. Chicago is a very long application. And if you don't have anything to say, don't say it. Okay. If there is something super interesting, okay, yes, you can use this section. Okay. It can be about your parents, it can be about you, it can be about your job, it can be about your post-career, it can be about what you want to add to the school. If you haven't put this down in any place in the application, yes, use this section. But again, there's no reason to add here anything. It's optional. If you don't have anything to add, so you need to kind of decide or use us, your consultants, to kind of decide, do you use this section or not? In some schools where the application is very short, we suggest to use this space. But Chicago, because the application is quite longer, it's kind of optional, do we use it or not? And basically, that was it. There's some acknowledgements, which are quite simple. Again, you can read them, but don't misrepresent yourself, and be true to yourself and be honest. And there's a few ticks here. Do you want to be considered for merit-based scholarship? I see no reason not to tick yes. We've seen very nice merit-based scholarships from Chicago. And again, there's some ticks. I'm willingly to give the school freedom to release information from my application, well, to third parties. Don't think you have so much room here, especially if they want to give your information to different scholarships. So there's sometimes external scholarships which are connected to the school. Let's say the Carleton Fellowship, which is a scholarship for a specific demographics. So do you want to allow them to share your information? Yeah, share my information. Okay, and are we allowing Chicago to give our information to students and alumni? Of course, why not? A lot of times after you get accepted, schools might give your information to current students to kind of reach out to you and check if you need information. So yes, and here you type your name, and that's how you finish the application. And at the end, there's kind of an overview with checklist. So maybe I should have just gone, it's called review. Let's just jump there. It won't allow me, but that will just be kind of check boxes on here. Great. On all the areas. And as you can see, I have nothing completed here. But that's a shame. I didn't even complete one. What a terrible overview. But let's say in the essays, we could have just copied and pasted stuff, and that would have been green. And then if I would have, if all this wouldn't be missing. So you would actually see here a submit button, and then we could submit, pay our application fee, and we are done. So thank you. That was very long because Chicago is kind of a long application. If you have any questions, reach out to us. There's Jennifer, our CEO's email here. Reach out to her. Why not? And I'm Shimri Winters. You can also reach out to me. You can find me through LinkedIn or through our Ringo website. Check us out on aringo.com. We have lots of good information there. Check our other videos. And whoever's submitting to Chicago, good luck. And see you in the MBAs next year. Good luck.